She was born Vera Jane Palmer on April 19, 1933, and grew up to be an American actress, singer, dancer, model, Playboy playmate, and one of Hollywood's most famous sex symbols and blonde bombshells of the 1950s. In her short life of 34 years, she maintained an extremely busy and ambitious lifestyle while chasing her dreams in hot pursuit of becoming a famous actress, all while filling many other roles and duties, including holding a plethora of jobs during her early years, as well as the role of wife and mother. She was married 3 times and had 5 children. This story is about the life, legacy, and death of a famous Hollywood icon, Jayne Mansfield. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're a first-time viewer, I'm happy you found me. Be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share, and click the notifications for new content. Again, welcome, and let's get into the story. While Jayne's short-lived film career consisted of mostly comedic roles or ones that capitalized on her sex appeal, she did have a few box office hits in the mid to late 1950s. Like the 1956 film, where she played her first starring role as Jerry Jordan in the musical The Girl Can't Help It, which became one of the year's most successful movies, both financially and critically, surpassing the success of Marilyn Monroe's Gentlemen Prefer Blondes 3 years prior in 1953. And the 1960 film Too Hot to Handle, released in London as a British gangster thriller where Jayne stars as Midnight Franklin, a headliner of a club in London's Soho area and girlfriend of the owner of the Pink Flamingo where she performs. In America, it was released under the title Playgirl After Dark. Her agent, William Schifrin, was able to score a role for her to play as a fictional film star, Rita Marlowe, in the Broadway play For Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter alongside Orson Bean and Walter Matthau from 1955 to 1956. In 1957, she reprised her role as Rita Marlowe in the film adaptation For Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter, and even won 2 awards, including a Golden Globe for the 1957 movie The Wayward Bus as New Star of the Year, beating 2 other nominees, Carol Baker and Natalie Wood. It was also her attempt to establish herself as a serious actress and to remove the stigma that followed, a constant for being typecast as a silly, blonde bombshell. According to the New York Times, it was quote-unquote generally conceded to have been her best acting. In 1957, Fox Studios launched a tour for both North America and Europe that Jayne was a part of. While she was in London, Jayne met Queen Elizabeth II at a reception for the Royal Film Performance, which shows major movie premieres. And it was reported that Jayne's dress was so full of bling that she nearly outshined the Queen of England. Jayne was only 17 years old when she married Paul Mansfield on May 6, 1950 in Fort Worth, Texas, and their daughter, Jayne Marie, was born 6 months later in November. Jayne eventually enrolled in Southern Methodist University to study acting, and in 1951 she moved to Los Angeles for a short period of time and attended a summer semester at UCLA. Jayne was supposed to be extremely intelligent with an IQ of 149, which is considered genius level and in the top 0.1% of the world's population. While in Los Angeles, she entered a Miss California contest, but Paul wasn't too happy about that and pressured her to drop out. After their short stay in California, they moved to Austin, Texas, where she studied drama at the University of Texas and worked as a nude model, a door-to-door book salesperson, and a receptionist at a dance studio. In Texas, Jayne stayed busy. She joined the Curtain Club, which was a campus theatrical society that included lyricist and singer Tom Jones, composer Harvey Schmidt, and actors Rip Torn and Pat Hingle. In 1952, Jayne and Paul moved to Georgia and spent 1 year at Camp Gordon, a U.S. Army training facility, when Paul was called to duty in the U.S. Army Reserve during the Korean War. In 1953, they moved to Dallas, Texas, and Jayne studied under Polish-born actor Baruch Lumet, father of director Sidney Lumet. He also founded the Dallas Institute of Performing Arts that same year and gave Jayne private lessons. He considered her and Rip Torn as his quote-unquote kids. Lumet eventually helped Jayne get her first screen test at Paramount in April of 1954, and Paul, Jayne, and their daughter, Jayne-Marie, moved to Los Angeles that same year. Jayne continued to work at a variety of odd jobs, including selling popcorn and candy at the Stanley Warner Theater. She also taught dance and was a part-time model at the Blue Book Model Agency. She even worked as a photographer for the actress Esther Williams' Trails restaurant. In February of 1955, after Hugh Hefner began publishing Playboy 2 years before in 1953, and when Marilyn Monroe was the first to grace the cover, Mansfield became the Playboy Playmate of the Month as the Valentine Vixen for Miss February, appearing in the magazine several times. Her appearance increased the magazine's circulation and helped boost her career. For several years, every February, it became tradition for Playboy to feature Jayne as Miss February from 1955 to 1958, and again in the magazine's 1960 issue. Then a repeat of the original 1955 pictorial was published again in 1964. In 1963, Jayne would appear in Playboy again, but this time not as Miss February. It was to promote a certain movie which got Hugh Hefner arrested and put on trial when Playboy headquarters was still in Chicago, nearly ending the magazine. But before I can tell you that entire story, I need to get into some other details first, so make sure you stick around to hear the rest, a little later in this video. Paul was never in favor of his wife exposing her nude body in Playboy, so in 1956, he tried to gain sole custody of their daughter, Jayne-Marie, alleging that his wife was an unfit mother for appearing nude in the magazine. However, he had zero success in proving that in court, and Jayne not only retained custody of their daughter, but by 1958, she divorced Paul. By now, she was already famous and well known for being Jayne Mansfield, so she kept the inherited surname throughout her professional career and her other marriages. After her divorce from Paul in 1958, Jayne married actor and bodybuilder Mickey Hargitay that same year. Mickey was a Hungarian-American actor and the 1955 Mr. Universe title holder. He is also the father to their sons, Mickey Hargitay Jr. and Zoltan, and daughter Mariska. During her marriage to Mickey, the two made 4 movies together, including the 1963 film Promises, Promises. This movie made Jayne the first mainstream American actress to appear nude in a movie and the first to expose her bare chest. Okay, so get ready because I'm about to tell you the rest of the story about how this movie nearly ended Hefner and his famous magazine empire. While filming the nude scenes for Promises, Promises, Playboy sent a photographer to take still shots that were later published in Hefner's magazine in June of '63 to help promote the movie and, of course, magazine sales. But Hugh Hefner got into a little hot water when he published those photos and was arrested for circulating obscene literature. But on December 7, 1963, the jury was dismissed after it deadlocked 7-5 for an acquittal and ended in a mistrial. "Well, thank God for that," said every man ever. Jayne's marriage to Mickey ended in 1964, and on September 24th that same year, she married director Matt Clymer, and the two share a son together, Tony, who is Jayne's youngest child. Her marriage to Matt lasted 2 years and they divorced in 1966, just 1 year before her life would end in 1967, and the same year she began dating her attorney, Sam Brody, who would also lose his life with her in the accident. Apparently, Marilyn Monroe was jealous of Jayne, and like her rival, both died at a young age. Mansfield had a thing for JFK as well, and after she supposedly had an affair with the 35th President of the United States, she was quoted as saying, "I'll bet Marilyn's is all get out." Monroe reportedly disliked the fact that executives at 20th Century Fox began to believe that she was replaceable and no longer dependable. She believed they were intentionally grooming Mansfield to take her place. But in reality, the attempts the movie business tried to do were unsuccessful. In the world's eye, no one could replace the one and only Marilyn Monroe, and by the end of Mansfield's life, her career as a serious actress in the film industry was not only short and quaint, but the roles offered to her involved expectations for her to just get naked, which is why she had a long-standing relationship with Playboy and appeared nude in the film for Promises, Promises. However, it has been said, Jayne was comfortable in her own skin, obviously, and would often remain nude in between takes instead of robing up. In 1965, Jayne cut 2 tracks in New York with a young genius guitarist and musician named Jimi Hendrix. The two just happened to share the same manager and collaborated on 2 songs together, As Clouds Drift By and Suey, with Jayne on vocals and Hendrix on bass and guitar. In 1966, Jayne's career was on the decline, while Anton LaVey was trying to gain recognition for his Church of Satan. Anton LaVey was the founder of the Church of Satan and the Satanic Religion. He was the author of the Satanic Bible and several other books including the Satanic Rituals, the Satanic Witch, the Devil's Notebook, and Satan Speaks. The pair formed an unlikely and bizarre relationship that some say the two were involved romantically, and that Jayne dabbled and indulged herself in his rhetoric of Satanism. However, people also believe that both Jayne and LaVey were known for publicity stunts to gain notoriety, and this was all this was and nothing more. At the time, Jayne was in a bitter custody battle with her ex-husband Matt Clymer, and it was reported that she was willing to try anything if she felt it would benefit her to win her case, including seeking out help from the supernatural. Since LaVey was known for performing the occasional curse, Jayne sought out his help, or so the story goes. On June 16, 1967, Jayne won the custody battle for her 19-month-old son Tony just days before her death. Jayne and LaVey made sure paparazzi were present to document their meetings, to make sure they were seen together at Mansfield's home in Los Angeles, and the resulting photo op shocked the public and had them scratching their heads about this unlikely pair's collaboration. In 1992, on Joan Rivers' talk show, LaVey's daughter Carla insisted that Mansfield was a practicing Satanist and had indeed had an affair with LaVey. However, while she was still alive, Jayne stated publicly that she identified as Catholic, but did say that LaVey was a genius and told the press she didn't believe in his teachings, that she only found him to be interesting. There was never any proof that the two were having a love affair, and this doesn't mean anything remotely hocus pocus, but simply a fact. 18 days after the two were photographed together was when the car accident took Jayne's life, which is just coincidental, nothing more. Since Jayne was a child, she loved the color pink. The Pink Palace, formerly located at the corner of Sunset Boulevard and Carrollwood Drive, was a home she purchased in 1957 for $76,000 with husband Mickey Hargitay. The sprawling Mediterranean-style 40-room mansion was transformed mostly into her signature color pink after she bought it. It was originally built in 1929 for megaphone crooner Rudy Vallee. She had the exterior of the home painted pink with cupids surrounded by pink lighting. The house also included pink furs in the bathrooms, a pink heart-shaped tub, and had a fountain installed that was filled with pink champagne. Her initials were also formed into the compound's wrought iron gates, and a 40-foot heart-shaped pool was also added to the property. Jayne lived at the Pink Palace for a decade until her death in 1967. Others who would reside there after her death include Beatles drummer Ringo Starr, singer for the group The Mamas and the Papas Mama Cass Elliot, and British pop singer Engelbert Humperdinck. The mansion was demolished in 2002 when Humperdinck sold the property for $30 million to his neighbor Ronald Arnold, who was the founder of AmeriQuest Mortgage Company and owner of the Alwood Estate, with the purpose of raising it for property development. Allison Martino, a Los Angeles-based TV producer and columnist for the Los Angeles magazine LA Variety, said, "Seeing it demolished was like losing a member of the community, that there was nothing else like it." By now, most people know the truth that she was not decapitated in the accident, something long thought by people because of the way in which the wreck happened, and it just became an urban legend. Her undertaker, Jim Roberts, dismissed the myth to the New York Times in 1997. However, she did expire instantly from severe head trauma. On June 29, 1967, 34-year-old Jayne Mansfield was on her way to New Orleans from Biloxi, Mississippi, where she had been performing a standing engagement at a local nightclub and had a television appearance scheduled for the following day. 19-year-old Ronald Harrison, a driver for Gus Stevens Dinner Club in Biloxi, was driving Mansfield and her lawyer and boyfriend at the time, Sam Brody, along with 3 of Mansfield's children, in a 1966 Buick Electra that was borrowed from Ronald's 17-year-old girlfriend, Elaine Stevens. The two were high school sweethearts, and she was also the mother-to-be to their unborn child, a daughter. They were to be wed just 72 hours before his passing. On a dark stretch of road on U.S. Route 90, just as the car was approaching a machine emitting a thick white fog used to spray mosquitoes, down here we call them mosquito trucks, it most likely obscured the driver's view, and the car slammed into the back of the truck, shearing off the top of the car. Jayne Mansfield and her 2 adult companions, Sam Brody and Ronald Harrison, who were all sitting in the front seat, all lost their lives, but her 3 children, Mickey Jr., Zoltan, and Mariska, all fathered by her second husband, Mickey Hargitay, were sleeping in the back seat, and all 3 survived. 2 of Jayne's dogs were lost in the wreck as well. She had 4 chihuahuas with her that night. Last year, on my way home from filming a documentary about the Myrtles Plantation, which is located in St. Francisville, Louisiana, there is an in-video link at the end if you are interested in watching it. I decided to stop by the Roadside Memorial, dedicated to the iconic Hollywood actress Jayne Mansfield, where her life tragically ended that night from a car accident around 2:25 a.m. You probably know her daughter, Mariska Hargitay, who is also a well-known actress best known for her role as NYPD Captain Olivia Benson on the series Law & Order Special Victims Unit. Here's the footage I took while making my way back home to Florida, driving right outside of New Orleans to stop at the Roadside Memorial, and pay my respects, as many do, with the little trinkets and gifts people leave at the site. I'm off of Highway 90 near Slidell. I'll try to get across the street real quick so I can get a better shot. Jayne died here June 29th, 1967. Her two children were in the back seat, and one of them, you know, today, my mom watches one of those CSI shows that Mariska Hargitay, her daughter, was actually a child when this happened. She was in the wreck too. The two children survived, but everybody else died. Jayne Mansfield was one of the blonde bombshells of her day, like Marilyn Monroe. A little bit over here. Ronald Harrison, Jayne Mansfield, Samuel Brody. And again, this says, Ronnie, Sam, and Jayne died here June 29th, 1967 at 2:25 a.m. For new content and breaking news stories, please be sure to click the notifications to follow along and be notified when updates are available. Don't forget to like, comment, and please feel free to share. You can also join my Facebook group for True Crime and History Time and follow me on TikTok and Instagram. My usernames for those platforms are @JerryScarborough_official. And as always, thank you for watching, subscribing, and supporting my channel.